Hey everyone, and welcome back to the news. Wow, this has been such a busy week. Not really in World of Warcraft, but, well, that was until the most recent news regarding Activision-Blizzard jobs. Still, there are a fair few things to talk about, including some PTR updates and some very interesting story speculation. And this video is brought to you by two things. Number one is Bellular News. Ooh, new thing. Yeah, we release 4 to 7 videos a week over there now, on top of course, what we release over here. So it's like 10 bits of content a week. So if you can stick another hour of my face, I mean, God bless you, I can barely look at a mirror for a second, but you can check out that channel. So far the response has been kind of mind-blowing, like we've hit 1 million views in under a month, which is totally beyond what I thought was possible with that. And then also a massive thank you to the Patreon crew. It had been a really rough January, and they were really instrumental in making everything happen. Our next master tier is the Warrior, and oh man, it is really delicious. The physical stuff arrives soon. Over there's also an office tour video and a video on how we make videos, as well as an upcoming one on the thumbnail process. So, that's what's going on over there. Let's get into the news. First up, the world first race concluded. It was very tight, but Method did manage to get the win, and even a quick re-clear the following day. Limit, though, were able to provide them with stiff competition throughout, and eventually were able to get their own Jaina kill decently shortly after Method's. And it was a hell of a race. Limit not streaming just added this layer of tension and mystery to the whole race, and that made it really exciting, especially because by streaming, Method were basically giving out their tactics for free, which technically did lose them quite a major advantage. Now this race, more importantly I would say, was a major sort of esports event or entertainment event I suppose, with Method pulling off insane numbers. Over the week they got 9.61 million watch hours, which is just staggering. That's comparable to some major esports events like from CSGO and Dota, so it's pretty amazing. But you know what's also really amazing and just insane? The length to which Method went to get gear. Now, you should really check out the full explanation video from Josh, but man, it's crazy how much they went into exploit personal loot. And in the process, they got the guild into 100 million gold of debt, which is like 10 grand sterling of WoW token. You might be wondering what they were doing. Well, I can kind of give you the short version of it. They were using professions, and in using their professions, it meant they cleared out the auction houses on multiple servers. So they take up every profession that would give them an item, like say an engineering helm or an alchemy trinket. Why? Well, they did that so they could get a slot at a high item level in their heroic week split runs, so that they could basically trade stuff on trade personal loot between each other, because of course the tradability of an item through personal loot is based on the highest item level that your character has equipped in that slot. So basically they did that as much as they could over like all the characters that they were doing their heroic split runs on, which might have been like 80 to 120 characters or something. Now, I mean, it's crazy. And then they were doing full raids of the same armor type. Basically, every trick in the book to exploit personal loot, on top of them doing heavy Azerite funneling in the period leading up to the raid, as well as still being able to Azerite funnel after the nerf, because at the end of the day, they were split running through armor type. And yeah, what they're able to pull off there, like just the logistics, it's kind of incredible. Now, whatever their debt is, they apparently have a buyer lined up for their first re-clear Jaina mount, which will, I guess, be worth a lot of gold. So, on the whole though, it has been great to see the competitive WoW scene have a little bit of a resurgence, and it was just a fun media event, and overall, I guess, just grats to Sko and Dari and everyone who was hosting the stream, and yeah, it was a really cool event for us all. Next up though, layoffs. This really is the rough news here. So according to a report from Bloomberg, Activision-Blizzard are set to lay off hundreds of employees over the next week. Hundreds, yeah. They're already, and of course that's already going on top of the job cuts that have been taking place throughout the company through their Career Crossroads program, which was a voluntary redundancy program. The key thing though is that they've recently been expanding that program to essentially cover more departments, and they've also been increasing the cash payout bonus of it to, in some cases, being worth a year of salary. Now that clearly has not led to a large enough reduction in headcount. We will have to wait until Tuesday to find out what's actually going to happen, but I mean, yeah, this very much has been a well-circulated rumor within Blizzard circles for the last while, but of course this Bloomberg report coming out does somewhat legitimize it, and it's much like how we saw with, say, the BuzzFeed, Vice, and Huffington Post job cuts, where they were leaked to the press a few days before the actual announcement. So overall, yeah, my thoughts are with the Activision Blizzard staff. They face a lot of uncertainty this weekend. they just, a lot of them don't know what the status of their job is going to be. Now, chances are these cuts are mostly from non-development roles, and that is something that is in line with their ongoing efforts to cut costs and to ship more product. One thing is pretty certain though, loads of staff with Destiny-related roles in the Activision side of the business, well, they're probably the most at risk. And there's a lot more detail to go into here, but I've already done that on my industry news channel, so if you would like to see the full dive into this topic of the health of Blizzard, just what all their games are like, how all that stuff's going, then check out the link in the description. There's a full video on this topic. Next up, the Heirlooms saga. So let's talk about this. Basically, the Heirlooms for level 110 through 120 were quite expensive, originally costing 15,000 gold for the armor and 22,500 for the weapons. And that was kind of insane. I mean, that would make a full set of Heirlooms for one character cost like 150k. That's a crazy amount of gold as compared to most players' income. Well, Blizzard have updated these costs on the PTR, now being 5,000 gold for the armor casing and 7,500 for the weapon upgrade. And those numbers may seem a bit familiar to you, and that's actually because that's how much the 100 to 110 Heirloom upgrades cost during Legion. So when we look at the overall costs, we see the 120 Heirlooms cost as much as the 110 ones did, and that then the 110, 100, and 90 Heirlooms are all significantly cheaper, with the 110 ones going down from 5,000/7,000 to 2,000/3,000, and the 100 ones going from 2,000, 5,000 to 1,000 and 1,500. On the whole, I think it's a pretty damn reasonable change, and I'm glad they listened to player feedback on this one. But there is something else that's a little bit awkward here. You see, Heirlooms, well, normally they aren't even that powerful. They're often actually a little bit behind questing blues, like they are for Legion, especially those item level 800s that you would get for completing a zone's questline. Well, in Battle for Azeroth, the same thing applies, but well, the Heirlooms take up Azerite slots. Now, the Azerite gear that you initially get off Magni is item level 280, and the Azerite that you get from completing the major zone storylines is also 280, and this means that you'll be giving up, 280 slots, plus the traits, in addition to the Heirlooms not being that amazing for combat anyway, and the crazy amount of primary stats that are, there. Now, I mean, it's just odd on the whole, I suppose. Perhaps boosting their item level scaling for the BFA content would kind of help to keep it a bit more balanced. Still though, I think you will come out ahead with the Heirlooms, but it just might be the case that you'll gain like 30% XP, maybe at the cost of 20% DPS. Now, for a quick example, Matt, who is our producer now, he kind of actually helps a lot of the day-to-day running of this channel, which has been great. It's allowed me to do a lot more writing and stuff. And really, that just means I get to put a lot more time into the videos that you actually see here from the scripting side. So for him, he had a warrior with a 280 Azerite helm that had 235 strength. Well, his Mythic 10 gear from Legion had 56 strength. So you kind of are losing out on a large amount of your primary stat initially, but overall, it still is going to be a speed gain to get the Heirloom. Next up, we've got some naming news, some player choice news, but this time it's for the Alliance. So, at the end of the Kultiran Allied Race quest, you deliver a boat to Anduin, and you get to choose between 4 different names for that boat, and for each name that you choose, you get a different bit of dialogue. Now, it's not particularly consequential, let's be real here, but I suppose it is nice to have that just little bit of extra player back and forth with the characters of the game. Now, perhaps this could be expanded upon in the future. As an example, having a minor amount of choice in a zone's questing, that could actually be a really nice touch in the next expansion. That could add just a level of richness to their zones that I think, well, I don't want to say they're lacking in, but it would be a nice thing to have. Next up though, let's talk about new visuals. So, for those of us like me who just love the tentacles, we're in luck with 8.1.5 because the Gift of N'Zoth is being added as a level 1 cosmetic item, basically meaning you can transmog the eye helm thingy onto your head. So yeah, that's very nice, and there'll probably be some nice creepy transmogs available for it. Next though, we have an Alliance-themed wolf mount. Now this is kind of tricky, because how'd you get it? Right? Because the next raid patch, that's a Shara themed. We also know that the Warfront system is not being added to in the next patch. Well, okay, they're going to do a heroic mode for patch 8.2, but we know there isn't going to be a new Warfront. I don't actually think there's a new Warfront in the works. It makes you wonder, where does this mount come from? Especially from the narrative perspective. I would actually speculate that this wolf mount is a reward for completing the Alliance war campaign. Maybe something that involves helping out Saurfang. You know, like looking at the color of the wolf, well, the wolf is white. So does that make me, it kind of makes me wonder, like, are we helping Saurfang and the Frost Wolves kick off an exile horde government that's sponsored by the Alliance? That's totally speculation, but it is hard to see how we'd get an alliance mount that's a wolf that looks like this without it being a warfront, and it doesn't seem like the faction war is going to be factoring into the core game content that much past the, the war campaign and dazar'alor. Next, we have another one. Derek Proudmoore has got a new model. Now, this is decently interesting because it does suggest that Derek Proudmoore is going to be a little bit more important in the future. Now, we know that Jaina points him towards Kalia Menethil, who is a Light-Undead, but she has not been seen in the game. Now, this does make me think that the two of them will be a bit more important in the future, and I think that does make sense given the importance of life and death in the storyline that Blizzard are seemingly trying to kick off. And it makes you wonder, what could the two of them do together? Well, they could help to kick off a new faction of undead, and that could play quite interestingly into Sylvanas' arc. Of course, with Derek kind of coming back to bite her. Perhaps he could cause problems for her at home. Maybe that would lead to some sort of showdown. Alternatively, though, they could use this for a new allied race. They totally could. The Light-Undead. They'd be like the regular undead, but, with a glow stick cracked over them. Like Kalia, they'd sort of look like that, and also like the Lightforged Draenei. So Kalia and Derek could maybe lead this faction, maybe he could get blessed in some way, and I think that would make a lot of sense. And ultimately, there's this. Blizzard will want allied races as a part of the pre-order package for the next version of World of Warcraft. Why? Well, based on the extreme success of the BFA pre-orders, which were a series high and, being real, really helped to boost their quarterly income for that quarter. Narratively, well, Light and Death are both, they're important now. They kind of stand against the Void. The Void will likely be factoring into the next expansion. Plus, we know that the Mag'har Orcs and their anti-Light storyline were supposed to ship later than it actually did, and that means that there's kind of parallel Light narratives being set up throughout the content of the Battle for Azeroth expansion. So yeah, makes me think that this could mean allied races that are undead on the side of the Alliance, but are differentiated because they glow a bit. And then finally, there is new art for the portals. Okay, it's not going to make it a new game or anything, but it's really pretty art, so yeah, I suppose it's nice to see that. Anyway, that is essentially it for the news. Yeah, it was a little bit of a slow week on the World of Warcraft front for the news cycle. In terms of what I'm expecting, well, they have said that once 8.1.5 is out, that's when 8.2 hits PTR, and I mean, come on guys, like once 8.2 hits PTR, it's going to be absolute gangbusters. We'll have so much stuff to talk about, especially if what they have said they want to do for the Nazjatar Zone is actually in alignment with what we see in-game. Because if what we see in-game is in line with what they've said, then it's definitely something I'm interested in. So that's pretty much what's up, but that is not the end of content on this channel for this week. If you've not seen the stuff on the other channel, there's like, I don't know, 50 minutes of content, 60 minutes just there for watching, and then there's also, there's the expanded video on the Activision-Blizzard, basically the sort of state of the company and the job losses and all of that stuff, as well as, just so much stuff over there. I'd recommend checking it out. Anyway, that's it for me. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I'll see you soon.